Hey now, welcome to Random Movie Club. I'm your host, Rob Logan, and each episode I sit down with a co-host to discuss any movie of their choosing. The only qualification is that the movie is available to watch at home on DVD, Blu-ray, or digital. Before you listen to this show, I highly recommend that you watch the movie we're going to talk about, because we're going to spoil everything. Also, at the end of the episode, I'll tell you which movie we're going to discuss next so you have enough time to watch it. If you enjoy Random Movie Club, you can help keep it going by supporting us on Patreon. Supporters get special benefits like bonus episodes, patron-only events, giveaways, and more. Show your support for Random Movie Club and the Geek Generation by visiting our Patreon campaign at thegeekgeneration.com/support. On this episode, I'll be discussing The Silence of the Lambs with Skowalz. Let's roll the film. The Silence of the Lambs was released in 1991 from director Jonathan Demme. Based on a book by Thomas Harris, with a screenplay written by Ted Talley, the film stars Jodie Foster and Anthony Hopkins. The Silence of the Lambs. Why did you choose this movie?
I think I chose this movie for the podcast because it's getting, well, at the time of recording this, it's getting to be like Halloween cold times, which I tend to like want to watch true crime stuff, like slightly spooky. So I was really feeling it, and it's probably my favorite scary movie, even though it's not like your typical like horror slasher, whatever. So it's just like that time of year, and it's, probably my favorite horror and movie.
Yeah, it's classified online as like horror/thriller too, and yet I don't know. I don't think about movies like this as horror. I think about them as like psychological thrillers.
Yeah, I would agree that it's definitely more of a thriller type movie. Because I can't do like gory stuff. Like it's not for me. I used to be able to do it a little bit, but in my advanced age, I can't do just like the grossy like jump scare movies anymore.
Yeah.
And also just like hashtag strong female lead.
Right.
Jodie Foster is a queen.
Before it was a really celebrated thing.
Before it was like a hashtag. I always love that.
Sweet. All right. Well, as I always do, I go to IMDb and I gather up a whole bunch of trivia, and this movie has a ton of it. Some of which you might have heard, some of which you might not have heard. So one of the inspirations from whom Sir Anthony Hopkins borrowed for his interpretation of Hannibal Lecter was a friend of his in London who rarely blinked when speaking, which unnerved anyone around him. So you can tell that like his blinks are very methodical within the movie.
Yeah, we might get to it later on, but there's just a lot of staring like at the camera. And then it's like almost you don't blink or take a breath until he like does the same.
Yes.
So yeah, that's... I can feel that. It's palpable. The tension.
It is. He also took inspiration from Truman Capote, Katharine Hepburn, and HAL 9000 for developing the voice.
Ooh. Yeah, there's something very methodical about it. Did you say methodical? Yeah, machine-like, but also something very poetic, rhythmic about the way he speaks.
Absolutely. Michelle Pfeiffer was Jonathan Demme's first choice to play Clarice Starling after the two worked on Married to the Mob. After a long courting period of Demme in pursuit and Pfeiffer considering playing the role, she ultimately turned it down as she thought the film would be too dark and violent.
It's dark for sure. And I can't see anyone other than Jodie Foster as Clarice. So it's fine. It's all for the best.
Yeah. Jodie Foster claims that during the first meeting between Lecter and Starling, Sir Anthony Hopkins' mocking of her southern accent was improvised on the spot. Foster's horrified reaction was genuine, as she felt personally attacked. She later thanked Hopkins for generating such an honest reaction.
I have that in my notes, like how much I love that part when he like calls out her shoes, like her cheap shoes and her accent and stuff.
It's a great part.
It's one of those moments where like it's like a oh damn like moment, but also you feel really, really terrified. And like you can't stand up for her. So
it's the first time he opens up and like exposes what he really is.
Yeah.
And that's where you get scared.
Yep.
Clarice Starling was one of the biggest influences for creating the character of Dana Scully, according to the X-Files creator Chris Carter. There's also a tribute to this film in the last episode of the 9th season when Scully visits Mulder in the jail and he tells her, "I smelled you coming, Clarice."
That's really funny that you picked that piece of trivia, because I think part of the reason I chose this movie, to go back to your first answer, was that I just recently like jumped into the X-Files. Like I've never watched it front to back. So I started doing that. And I think I'm just on that like hashtag strong female character, like crime solving, like badass on that wavelength right now. So it lines up. It checks out. It checks out.
Jamie Gum is the combination of 3 real life serial killers. Ed Gein, who skinned his victims. Ted Bundy, he used the cast on his hand to bait women to get into his van. And Gary Heidnik, who kept women he kidnapped in a pit in his basement.
Yep. Again, on the true crime kick. Like going towards Halloween and the stark winter. Yeah, I'm familiar with those references and stuff. I wouldn't say I'm like a true crime nut or anything like that, but that's definitely one thing.
But you know how to properly pronounce their names.
Yeah, I know how to pronounce their names.
Enough.
Yeah, so the pit inspiration, that story is horrifying.
Oh, I'm
sure.
So
never look that up unless you want.
Gladly will avoid.
You want to learn, but also have a real bad time.
After Jodie Foster first read the Thomas Harris novel, she tried to buy the rights herself, only to find Gene Hackman had beaten her to it. Hackman originally wanted to star as Hannibal Lecter, but ultimately didn't play the role as he had just finished playing another dark character and didn't want to do him like back to back.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
They went with the right choice. They also had Sean Connery was one of the first choices. Yeah.
No kidding.
But he also didn't want to do it because he looked at it and was like, this is too dark and violent.
Yeah, dark for sure. Violent. I mean, yes, just by the nature of it.
To kind of get back to what you were saying before, when characters are talking to Starling, they often talk directly to the camera. When she's talking to them, she's always looking slightly off camera. Jonathan Demme has explained that this was done so the audience would direct experience from her point of view, but not theirs, hence encouraging the audience to more readily identify with her.
Yeah, I get that. I'd written a note about like there's a lot of direct to camera, but it doesn't feel like hokey, I guess, in any sort of way. Because I feel like that could go real south real fast. But in this, it just feels really, really intense.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it accomplished what they were actually getting, because they even do it with, they don't just do it with Lecter, they do it later on with like the waitress, much later on, that was friends with one of the victims. And she's staring directly at the camera. And I'm like, this is very invasive, even though this person's not supposed to be aggressive with us at all.
Yeah. No, I agree. I probably wouldn't have like identified like, oh, I feel like Clarice in this moment. I just identify it as like, this is a pretty cool technique and it feels really intense.
Yeah. The first moth cocoon found in one of the victims' throats was made from a combination of Tootsie Rolls and gummy bears, so it would be edible if swallowed.
Yeah. That's so gross. It makes me not want them.
Neither of those candies.
Yeah.
The tobacco hornworm moths used throughout the film were given celebrity treatment. They were flown first class to the set in a special carrier, had special living quarters, and were dressed in carefully designed costumes, which were body shields bearing a painted skull and crossbones.
That's so cool. I didn't know that. But yeah, they're celebrities on camera and off camera.
Absolutely.
Because it was like a big deal to have that kind of moth.
Yeah, and that poster is iconic at this point.
Yeah.
During the location scouting for the house in which the serial killer Jamie Gum was living, Ted Levine, who played Jamie, was amazed to discover that the house being considered was not only in the town where he grew up, but was literally next door to the house of his high school girlfriend.
That is creepy. And also really, really cool.
Like, what are the odds?
Yeah.
When Clarice Starling first discovers Catherine Martin in the well in Jamie Gum's basement, Martin's gown, wide-eyed fear, and holding Gum's white poodle Precious can be seen as a direct mirror of Starling's own childhood memory of trying to save a lamb. Catherine refuses to give up the dog after being rescued as well. I
never made that connection like that.
I didn't either when I was watching it, but yeah.
I do love that she keeps the dog, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the whole time she's like threatening to hurt it. It's so painful.
Yeah. Oh my God. No.
Anthony Hopkins viewed the film as a last-ditch effort to really break out in Hollywood. Although he had acted in film and television since the 1960s, he had not reached A-list status, nor had he attained the prestige he'd been hoping for with his screen acting career. He went on to say that if this film hadn't garnered the career boost he was seeking, then he would have quit his acting career in Hollywood and focused all his efforts instead on the British stage.
Damn. Because in my mind, I guess Anthony Hopkins, it's Anthony Hopkins.
Anthony Hopkins, yeah.
But I get, I was young when this came out, so I didn't really know much about his career.
Which is
even
wild.
now,
So he'd been acting for like 30 years already.
Yeah, because it's like, what's Anthony Hopkins in? I'm like, I don't know. He's Anthony Hopkins. He's in everything.
Yeah. He's the man.
Yeah.
Lastly, with 24 minutes and 52 seconds of screen time, Sir Anthony Hopkins' performance in this movie is the second shortest to ever win an Academy Award for Best Actor in a Leading Role, with David Niven in Separate Tables beating him at 23 minutes and 29 seconds.
He delivered.
It's wild because I feel like even though that's such a short percentage of the movie, I don't think of him as being in it for that short of a time.
Oh, yeah. Agreed.
And I definitely enjoy the scenes with him and Clarice, like, the most out of anything in the movie.
Yeah, those are definitely some, like, the first meeting is one of the best.
It is.
Period.
So let's get into the movie itself.
Sure.
So it starts off with that training sequence where she's doing the obstacle course and everything. The first thing that I thought was funny was, like, that they were labeled. So, like, it says in a sign, cargo net, right next to it, which is something they do at, like, Boy Scout camps. But I don't think it's necessary at an FBI training facility.
It's like they're detectives. I'm sure they know it's a cargo net.
Right, in the middle of the woods.
Yeah. They use their detecting skills.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right after that was one of my favorite images from the movie is when she gets into the elevator and it's her, like, tiny little frame and it's just, like, all the dudes like standing around her and she's just like looking up, like,
which establishes like two things that they establish very early on in the movie. One, that she's like a woman in a man's world.
Yeah.
And that she's clearly an underdog. So they're even showing like a scale thing there. Like, I don't think she's that short. They clearly got guys that were very tall for that.
Sure.
To like make us root for her and show that she's like building up to something else.
Yeah. No, I love that. Just like you said, establishes what's going on. And I think that dynamic is definitely just throughout the entire movie. Not only the overarching, like, what and who Buffalo Bill is, but also I feel like in a lot of, like, micro interactions between, like, Clarice and, like, superiors or whoever else.
I jotted down a few examples. One of them is even right away as she's going to the office after she was summoned from the obstacle course. The two guys that she sees kind of like eye her as she's walking towards Crawford's office. There's the point where they ask to speak with the cops privately away from Clarice.
Yep.
Which I'm glad she brings back up and addresses later. Like, don't do that. Like, you're setting a model for how people treat me. Yeah.
I do like her and Crawford's relationship a lot. Her like superior officer. Because it feels sort of mentor-mentee. And I think he's like wants to do right by Clarice throughout the movie. And then I have Dr. Chilton, who's like in charge of...
Oh, God.
I just have like... I literally wrote down in parentheses, I have Dr. Chilton, and then parentheses, like, fart noise. Like, I hate that guy. But yeah, just very different dynamics, like, between someone superior to her and Chilton and then superior, like, Crawford.
Absolutely. They do have, like, Dr. Chilton blatantly hits on her.
Yeah.
Like, is very blatant about it, and as does one of the bug experts later on.
I know. And I made a note about that, too, like, how she's just, like, trying to navigate getting her job done while also having to, like, swerve all these, like, awkward compliments or, like, passes. And it's like, that is, like, the realest 2018 thing right now.
The bug expert dude, I thought, was pretty much harmless. Like, he just seemed like a sweet guy that doesn't see girls that often.
Yeah, just like a little dweeb. Yeah. Totally. But chill. And I'm like, I dislike you very much.
That was super scummy.
Yeah.
It bothered me a little bit how she rushed to meet Crawford when she was summoned from the obstacle course, when she was still all sweaty and everything, even though, and he wasn't even there yet.
Yeah.
Like, I would assume unless it's an emergency, they would, especially in like a workplace environment, like clean themselves up a little bit before they like go into a meeting.
Right. Like, oh, you have a minute, Clarice. Go. Just take a minute. Take a minute.
And she was like very, I don't know. And if she was rushing that much, she like stopped a couple times to say hi to people on the way or like,
like high five.
Like, just go then. Like, make up your mind. What are you doing with this? I noticed that she repeats things a lot throughout the movie.
How do you mean?
So there's the part where Crawford asks her if she wants to be in his department, and her response is, very much so, very much. And then later on, when they're going over the story about the lamb, she does it like 3 times within that one story. So when she's running away, she says, the water was cold, very cold. He was so heavy, so heavy. And then when Hannibal asks about silencing the screams, she says, I don't know, I don't know. She constantly is repeating herself, and that just stood out to me.
I don't think I ever noticed that. I mean, I can hear those lines like in my head, but it never came off as like, I don't know. It just felt like how she talks. I don't know. I just did. I'm like, I don't know.
I wonder if it's something in the script or if that was a choice that she made. Because I can see that being like, that is a thing that some actors lean on as like a way to emphasize a point is to just repeat it.
Sure.
But if that's the case, doing it like 3 times in one speech felt a little much. I like that some of the more the gruesome things that are in the movie, some of them are not shown. Like the photo of what he did to the nurse.
Yep. Yeah, I definitely noticed that. Like, it's almost scarier just like seeing her face. I think it's like the camera's sort of at the photo level perspective, like looking up at her.
Yeah.
And there's something, definitely just unsettling.
I like that a lot.
Might be more unsettling than seeing the photo.
I think a lot of the times, if you leave things up to people's imagination, not only will it generate something more terrifying, but it also gives a person what they can handle. Like, my imagination's not going to hit me with something that I find over the top.
Right.
Something that I can't look at it. And it makes a movie more watchable for me.
Yeah. Because, like I said at the top, like I can't do like crazy gore anymore. So I appreciate the restraint in moments like that. And also I feel like one of the gross moments early on is Miggs in the cell next to her. Mm-hmm. Like, I feel like that could have been filmed way worse and way more graphic than it was. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's still pretty graphic and disgusting, but it's not like I need to turn this off moment. It's like I am now pissed off, slightly disgusted, but I'm still in it. I'm not just like, completely shut down or anything like that.
I found that to be one of the grossest parts of the movie. Honestly,
so
with all
disgusting.
the like body mutilation they were showing and everything, that was like one of the grossest parts.
It's so nasty.
Yeah. And it came out of nowhere, which made it even worse. Like, who's expecting that going into a prison to interview somebody? So
that is absolutely disgusting and terrible. And then like the next day when Crawford's like, he swallowed his own tongue, like Hannibal Lecter essentially like talked him into doing it. And she's like, I don't know how to feel. He's like, you don't have to feel anything. Like Lecter did it to amuse himself. It's like, how did you feel when you learned that he like talked that dude into...
How did I? I mean, I was like, that guy what was that human being anyway? Like, not to say his life didn't mean anything, but did it?
I know, I feel bad. I was like, because part of me is like, yeah, fuck that guy. That's dope that like Lecter can do that. And then I'm like, oh God, Lecter can do that. That's terrible. I think that was the thought I had first. Yeah.
Like, so it's not like I was cheering on Lecter, but it was the best way to show that what he's capable of, and still not without making him like a super villain right away. Like, he killed someone that we didn't care about, but it shows what he's capable of, which is really scary.
And again, without showing it.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that would have been horrible and disgusting and like kind of over the top.
And it would have taken away from what he does later.
Yeah. I think I know what you're talking about.
Well, he's only really like violent at one point in the movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to have no violence from him leading up to that point makes when he actually does it way more impactful.
Yeah.
Every time Lecter references a former patient of his, I can't help wondering who in their right mind would like go to him and be like, this guy seems normal and good for me.
Right.
I'm going to book another appointment.
Right. Like, oh, he's so polite, which I guess is the thing with, like serial killers and stuff. It's like a lot of them are charming. And I think, was it Ted Bundy, which was one of the, just a charming older man. So, I mean, I guess it's not a far leap to being like, oh, he seems like a nice guy.
But Lecter?
Yeah, I know.
If he's like that all the time,
we know, yeah.
He doesn't come across as charming or anything. I don't imagine he has another like personality delivery than just that.
I mean, I don't know, something it's Clarice says it, and I also find myself believing it, later on when they found out he's escaped and stuff. And she's like, he wouldn't come after me. He would consider it rude.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, you know what? You're right. He probably would think that's rude.
He would, yeah.
So it's just interesting. Like, he's this crazy ass person, but
he has rules.
It's like, that's a line.
Like,
like, don't come after Clarice. That's rude. Like, don't do that.
In the room with the corpse, and there's so many cops gathered around it and stuff, and they're like passing around coffee in this tight little room, and there's just like a dead body sitting there. What the hell is that? What is that?
The like when she does her first,
like the autopsy.
The autopsy, yeah, yeah. I also love how she like clears the room on that.
Yeah, I feel like that's the only reason that they were even all gathered in there, because it seemed so unrealistic to me that they would all be in that tight room with the corpse, just like drinking their morning coffee.
Right. Like, hey.
Yeah.
What's up, Joe?
Like, this is the social room. Here's the centerpiece.
Yeah. Yeah, because that was at the funeral home, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm guessing, yeah, has all that all in one place. But yeah, an alarming amount of cops hanging around the evidence.
Yeah. Being like very casual.
Right.
About halfway through the movie, as soon as we see Buffalo Bill, there's like two early pieces of evidence as to what he's up to. One, he's sitting at a sewing machine. This is before we see that he's sewing skin. We just see that he's sewing. And then we also learn from Lecter that he was denied the gender reassignment surgery. As soon as those pieces were presented, I was like, oh, I know he's making a woman's skin suit.
A skin suit, yeah.
Like, they don't figure it out for so long.
Right.
Which means they need to watch more movies.
Right, right.
But I had it pegged, like, right there. I should also clarify, because I didn't say it during the show yet, this is my first time seeing this movie.
Yes, I know. I can and can't believe it's your first time.
So this, I appreciate, I'm glad you chose the movie, because this is one of the exact reasons I started this podcast. This is one of those movies that's been on my list of, like, I need to watch this movie because it's so highly lauded by everybody.
Right.
But it's not something where I'm like, I'm in the mood to watch Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
So this gave me a perfect reason to.
I'm glad that I could do that for you.
There's the line where Lecter asks, was it a butterfly, the thing they found in the moth? And she goes, yes, a moth. I was like, no. Moths are not butterflies. Who didn't fact check that?
Wait, oh, like the line?
Yeah, the line. Lecter says, was it a butterfly? And Clarice says, yes, a moth.
Is it like all no. rectangles are squares, but not all squares are rectangles? Whatever.
I looked it up just to make sure, because I was like, I don't think moths are butterflies. And I Googled it, and they're not. There's differences.
Are butterfly? Wait, I don't know. I mean, fair point.
They're similar looking insects, right. But they're not in the same category.
Yeah.
So that was weird to me. But I don't think they used Google as much in the 90s.
Nah,
so.
They're like, they flap around. It's fine. Cocoon. And
when Lecter gets transferred to Memphis, I think that the part where they have him on the gurney with like that, is that like a plastic or a leather like muzzle mask?
The iconic, yeah.
I think that is the best visual representation of the character that they show within the movie, because they show him in like some different restraints and stuff, like the just metal bars or like the just him as he is. It makes him look the most like the monster that he actually is.
Like terrifying. Because all you can see is like the eyes.
Yeah.
And just like the sectioned off mouth. Super creepy.
I weirdly love the line where he was like, by the way, love your suit.
Yes, that's like a shout out to earlier when he's like making fun of Clarice's shoes and stuff. I'm like, why is this a thing?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I find myself laughing. I'm like, no, this guy is psychotic. What is wrong with me?
He always asks about clothing, and he asks about sexual stuff.
Yeah, or like constantly. The smell.
Yeah,
like smells.
Yeah,
he's like, you wear whatever perfume, but not today.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God.
What are you,
chilling.
Evil Sherlock Holmes?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Also, what the hell kind of half-rate facility is this Memphis place?
The one he eventually escapes from.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm like, why the fuck did they just like put him in the middle of the room? Like, I'm sure it's just to like set up the theatrics for later. But I was like, just throw him in a cell. I don't know.
Like, this is the worst setup. The security is awful. Where are the security cameras?
Right.
Like, this is all shit.
It's 1990, whatever. They're like, eh.
But he was in a great one. Like, move him to a similar type facility.
Yeah, I don't know why they did that the way they did. I don't, thinking about it now, because I never actually thought of this until you just said that. But it's Chilton, who's like, I figured out, we got him to say his name. That's Dr. Chilton, Chil. Like, it's like maybe he put him in this theatrical kind of place, so they could be like, look, we have him.
Show him off like a trophy.
Like, yeah, essentially show him off like a trophy. I have no idea if that's the case. But like, look, we have him. This animal.
It looked like he was in the middle of like a high school gym or something.
Right, yeah.
Like it didn't look like a prison
I don't
at
even know
all.
what it is. I don't even know
so
what it is.
weird. During the escape, he uses the part of the pen that Chilton left in his cell to unlock the cuffs. And I looked into this too because I was like, I didn't make the connection, honestly, that the thing he pulls out of his mouth is what he used to open the handcuffs, that was part of the pen.
Oh, okay.
I had thought that he got in some. I'm like, what the hell is he taking out of his mouth? And I was like, wait, what happened to that pen he had earlier? Oh, wait a minute. Okay, that's the same thing.
Yeah.
Because I was waiting for the pen to come back around.
Because when Chilton's talking to him in his cell and he leaves the pen on the bed or whatever, and Lecter's just looking at the pen. Like, it's like he's not even hearing Chilton at that point.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's bad move, sir. Bad move.
There's also, and I looked it up, I was like, how did he get the pen? Because he was in restraints. I guess if they put him back in and then put him in different restraints to move him. But if they never took him out of the restraints, there's no possible way for him to get that pen before they transferred him to Memphis.
So I never thought this, I've watched it a bunch of times. And then one time I was like, oh, I'm wondering if so say Chilton left his pen in there or whatever. Obviously he can't just like carry it with him. Did he eat it? And then that's why he's like on the toilet right before.
Oh,
that's what I was wondering. I'm like, oh, he must have
like
passed,
he bit off the latch.
Like he bit the thing or whatever, ate it, and then passes it. And so I put that together like a few times ago.
That sounds painful, but I guess it's possible.
Sounds painful, but I'm like, oh, he's in the bathroom. Is that supposed to insinuate that that's what he's? I mean, it makes sense.
Right.
But I was like, oh, that sucks.
Yeah. Oh, immensely. I think what I saw as responses from people online is that they're all like, yeah, it's impossible for him to have gotten that pen. But the movie is trying to tell us again, like it was probably impossible for him to get to Miggs.
Right.
And the movie keeps doing things that shouldn't be possible. And somehow Lecter keeps doing it. So they're either suggesting that he's just so brilliant that he's able to do the impossible, or that he's so evil. There's some almost like supernatural thing going on here.
I can see that.
And I think it makes him creepier for sure.
Because you're like, how? Like, again, the unseen.
And there's
creepier.
There's a lot of things that Lecter does that people shouldn't be able to do. Like he somehow noticed, and even Clarice says it when she's cut and she comes in and he's like, oh, you've been hurt. And she's like, how did you, like she says that very quickly. Like, how did you pick up on that? Like, it's not showing whatsoever.
Right.
And then even when she first goes to do the first meeting with him, as she's walking into his view, he's already following her with his eyes, even though he hasn't seen her yet.
Right. It's so creepy. Also that's like, the iconic sort of scene image from that. And it gave birth to one of my very favorite GIFs of all time, where someone has edited Lecter's cell. It's covered in like anime posters and like body pillows. Yeah. And it's captioned Konnichiwa, Clarice-chan. Which you should just like attach it to the podcast. put it underneath as an image. It's one of my very favorites.
Brandon by Sko.
Yeah.
When he's killing the officer with the baton during that escape as well, his strikes come off as very like robot-like. He has a very blatant exhale with each swing. Like he's so methodical about everything.
Yeah.
Even when he's kind of losing control, he's still in control.
Yeah. Which, that's really funny that you said that. Well, in that part, there's nothing creepier than him just slowly walking out of the cell. When you said when he's out of control, he's still in control, which is something I'd noted about like Clarice in a lot of moments. Like she's shook, but still trying to maintain that control. Like now it comes off as like a parallel trait that they both have.
Sure.
Like obviously in different ways.
Yeah.
But that's cool. That's interesting that you said that.
There were a lot of things that were kind of leaning towards the overall metaphor of the movie, that the movie is obviously about Clarice, but what Lecter represents versus what Crawford represents are two different parts of Clarice. So Lecter is like her honest self talking to her and like expressing her fears and her doubts. And that's why at the end of the movie, she's like shaking hands with Crawford and being accepted into the man's world, getting that respect that she's been trying to earn the whole movie. And then she, at the end, doesn't need Lecter anymore, but he still calls her up and is like, oh, I'm still here. Like your fears and your worries are still here, even though you got the progress you wanted.
Yeah. And I also, that thing of it being rude, he's like, oh no, I'm not gonna come after you. The world's more interesting with you in it. Like, I was like, oh. And also, the thing that I noticed is I've almost forgotten about Lecter at that point in the movie because so much happens in between when we last see him and that phone call, that when she gets on the phone, you're like, oh shit. Like, that's right, he's still out there.
Yeah.
like, oh damn. So iconic, like, quote whatever from this movie is, it puts the lotion in the basket.
Yes.
Like, it puts, so I'm guessing you were like aware of that.
I have seen
existing.
This is one of those movies that's difficult to watch because I've seen it parodied so many times.
Right.
It's one of the reasons I've never bothered to watch The Godfather, because I don't think I could watch it seriously and take it as it's supposed to be, because I've seen so many parodies. It's the Buffalo Bill stuff that's most parodied from this movie.
Yeah, because I want to because I feel like that's one of those quotes, like, everyone has heard it, but like, if you don't know the context of like what's happening or when it's happening, I'm like, did that like not mess you up in any way, but you're like, oh damn, like, it comes off as like this funny thing, but it's like actually an insanely fucked up moment.
Yeah. There's also I forget which of the Kevin Smith movies it is. Jay Muse does the Buffalo Bill dance and like tucks it in and everything.
Oh my God. That song is ruined forever.
Also, apparently that dance is in the book, but it wasn't in the screenplay. And Ted Levine was like, no, we have to do that because that shows how crazy this guy is. Yeah.
The level of, it's so unsettling. Also, a thing that I didn't notice till watch number whatever, he has someone else's scalp on.
Yeah.
Like, someone else's scalp. Like, at first you're just like taking in like the whole bodysuit, like the whole thing. And then one time when I was watching, I noticed like the line, it's like a bad wig almost, but it's like, oh, did the whole 9 yards. Like, he has another scalp on.
Yeah, when they're doing the shot of like his mouth and putting on the lipstick, they do a quick shot of his eyes as well, and you can see the cutout of the skin scalp hat he's wearing.
Oh God, it's so creepy. It's so creepy.
It's disgusting. During Lecter's escape, the ambulance escape, I didn't 100% buy. It's another thing I was like, I don't think that's really possible to like fool the cops in that way.
Right.
Although I did find a post online from an EMT who analyzed that scene and was like, they did a ridiculously good job of like making it plausible because all the steps they go through are accurate. There are certain things that they would have overlooked based on the chaos of the scene and like the very clear show that Lecter is putting on by hanging the guy there and everything. It's all a distraction and a smokescreen.
Yeah.
So that you can get out.
Yeah, that was another oh damn moment the first time I watched it. Because you're like, oh, I wasn't expecting it at least until you see him like sit up in the ambulance. I was
really?
Like, oh no, oh no. Like maybe I just haven't watched enough movies. Like, I don't know. But it's like, oh, this dude is crazy.
There are a lot of things in this movie where I was thinking, how often did they do things like this before this movie? Like, have I just seen this kind of stuff happen so much since that the things become predictable in this movie, even if it was like an innovator? Right, so like this movie came out in 91. Yeah, 91. So like as soon as I saw the blood coming down from the elevator, like it's too easy to say, oh, that's where he is. Like I knew there was going to be a dead body up there and that Lecter was the dead body that had been taken out. Like I knew it right away from that point. But again, that's because movies have trained me since that, even if this movie was one that was earlier on that did it, that kind of innovated it.
I will say my favorite bait and switch, though, is the end when you think the SWAT team is going to Buffalo Bill's house, but they're at the wrong place.
It's another one that I predicted, but it's still wonderfully done.
It's so well executed.
It is.
Because, like, when he opens that door and she's there, like, the dread just, like, washes over you, like, oh, fuck. This is bad. This is bad. It's probably, other than, like, a lot of the Clarice Lecter interactions, that's probably, like, my favorite chunk of the movie. Yeah. Is when she's, like, walking into the house and you know what he is and, like, what's downstairs. And she's just, like, and slowly.
She doesn't. Yeah.
And she doesn't, like, I'd say she's suspicious. Like when she starts looking around and then she sees the moth. and then just like low key like unclips her gun.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, she knows.
Yeah, like
Now
when
she
when she first rang the bell and everything, she wasn't like, oh, this is Buffalo Bill's house. She had no idea.
she's
She
like,
wouldn't have gone in
yeah.
alone otherwise.
No.
Like
I don't think so.
that's horrible procedure.
Yeah. And the way he like, and once that he knows that she knows,
Mm-hmm.
and he just like slips into the kitchen,
Mm-hmm.
it's probably one of the creepiest images of all the stuff in this movie that is upsetting or creepy. There's some reason when he just like slinks away,
Mm-hmm.
that it's the creepiest ass thing
Yeah.
in the entire movie.
I don't know how much training Foster went through when preparing this. Like they usually have, I know they worked with the FBI a lot on this, and the FBI fully endorsed this movie because they saw it as a recruiting tool for more female agents.
Cool. I know
So
that.
they were 100% behind it. And Foster also wanted them to make sure that they were portraying the FBI in an accurate way. I don't know how much training she had, like with gun work and stuff, because it does look like she's kind of fumbling around.
See, I like that. I made a note of like,
Yeah.
I think it's on purpose that she's not perfect at it.
Okay.
Because like even like earlier when she's training and like she doesn't check her corners or whatever.
I was going to bring that up.
And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
think
again,
they
it's like that moment where
foreshadowed
she's like shook but trying to like be in control.
Mhm.
So like it's like kind of a cliche of like, oh, you can't get your keys in the car like when you're being
Yeah.
chased or whatever. But I think it reads as like genuine when she like kind of fumbles it out of the thing.
Mhm.
And yeah,
There was even another moment in the movie too, because there's only a couple moments where she kind of loses control. I feel like that's definitely one of them. There's another one when she first exits after seeing Hannibal for the first time, and she like starts crying by her car.
Mhm.
And I could see a lot of people, like nowadays, people jump on that as a criticism of like, oh, you had such a strong female character and then you made her cry by the car. And it's like, no, come on, we're human
Like,
beings.
fuck you. Yeah.
Like, stop it. And not everyone's going to be like untouchable, unfazable.
Right.
Like, that's not human.
Yeah.
So that was actually a suggestion by a female FBI agent that Foster was shadowing when preparing for the movie. The agent was like, I've done that. You should work that
yeah.
in somehow because that's very real.
I think that's super real when you're trying to keep it together in the moment. Like, it doesn't have to be like a critique or whatever.
Mhm.
You can sit there and like take your critique or whatever. It was like, I've fucking left critiques and then just like gone and cried. Like,
Yeah.
it's just how it goes.
Yeah.
And I think another one of those shook but in control, but obviously human moments was when she was doing the autopsy and she takes these really long pauses. He's like, what else do you see?
Mhm.
Like, still trying to do her job and stay in control, but like visibly.
And you can hear a little quiver in her voice.
Just like, yeah.
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 Yeah, very good. The party at the end, I don't know why the handshake with Crawford was so focused on. Like they were trying to
know.
suggest something.
I know. I'm not sure why. I'm sure there's some symbolism there. I was just like, oh, they're bros. And they love each other in a cool way.
Yeah.
Not in like a...
Some people thought it was like him. I don't know. I guess in the book, his wife dies over the course of the book and he's mourning her at one point. It's not something that happens in the movie. So they were like, oh, any romantic thing is ridiculous because he was mourning his wife.
Right.
But there's the suggestion that Hannibal makes, and it does make you view their relationship. Like we've gotten that seed planted in our brains, and now we're looking for something.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah. I mean,
interesting.
I haven't read the books, so my experience is purely the movie. Like I said, I don't know. I like their relationship.
Mhm.
I didn't view it as romantic. I think they love each other, but not in like a romantic way.
Mm.
It feels very mentor-mentee kind of thing.
Yeah. But at the same time, it also feels like she's his tool
Interesting.
because he sent her in as a means to an end just to get information out of Hannibal because he couldn't do it himself.
Right.
So,
And then, yeah. And she calls that out too.
Yeah.
After the first.
and the reason
the
she
first
gets
thing.
to stick around is because now she's established that relationship. So it's not like he's just bringing her into the fold because he wants her to be there or he's trying to build her up. It's like, no, she's a means to an end as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think Crawford, I mean, that could be entirely true, but I don't think he's like slimy.
Oh, no, I don't think so at all.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it's like malicious or anything.
Yeah.
I just think that's the job.
Yeah. Like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
Clarice, come on.
And then the other kind of weird thing, just from like a filmmaking perspective, is when Hannibal calls up again. I don't know why they included this shot, but she looks around the corner and watches Crawford leaving the party, almost to suggest that like those two things are connected. As if like Crawford had something to do with Lecter escaping. And I don't think that's the case, really, but it's an odd choice from a filmmaking perspective.
Yeah, I wonder if Crawford knows that it's Lecter. Because he's like, you got a phone call, and then like tells her again, like, don't forget your phone call, like right before he leaves. Right. So I wonder if like he knows it's Lecter, and like maybe he's okay with it being Lecter. I have no idea.
I don't know. It just seems strange, but yeah.
Also, backtracking a little bit to when she goes to the basement, like when she, you know, she's searching for Buffalo Bill at the end. That is like, it felt like having, you know, new video games and stuff. I'm like, this feels very video game-ish, just like a windy basement full of doors, like walking simulator.
Like this doesn't happen in real life, but
like lingering dread walking simulator. Yeah. And also just like, I don't know the actress's name, who's Catherine Martin, the girl that's captive. She's in other stuff though. Yeah. And she's great. And she's just like screaming. She's like, no, you bitch, like get me out of here. I'm like, this is like the realest performance. Like she just keeps screaming. Clarice is telling her to shut up. But
she actually put on weight for the movie too. It said in the trivia.
Oh, she did? Yeah. No kidding.
Yeah. She had actually auditioned for the part of Clarice. But they ended up casting her here instead.
I think she's great as a very like regular person. Because that cut to her just like singing in the car to American Girl. Yeah. You're just like, oh, this feels really normal. And I know something terrible is going to happen. And God damn it, the empathy will get you killed every time. Captured, at least. It's like, do you need help with that couch? Nope. Do not. Nope. You'll get it. You'll get it. I'm not.
You're trying to do the right thing, but nope.
Nope.
Any other notes you wanted to touch on before we wrap up?
No, nothing else.
All right. I mean, I really enjoyed it. I always nitpick and criticize here and there too. But I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was very well done, and Hannibal Lecter as a character stands up to the like status it's been held at for so long.
Yeah. No, I'm glad to hear that. I was really curious as to what you would think about it. Yeah. Like not being a horror person, but this not being quite a horror movie.
I like a good psychological thriller.
Yeah. This one digs in. Yeah. It digs in.
Not always in the mood for them, but I enjoy a well-made one.
Once a year. One a year.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we are wrapping up, can we plug some things for you? Streams, social medias, anything like that?
Sure. I am Skowalz on Twitter and Twitch. That's SKOWALZ. Casual streamer on Twitch, and tweet about whatever I want to tweet about. Which is, I guess, everyone's Twitter, right?
Right, yeah. Sweet.
You can find me there.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being on the show for the second time. People can go back and check out your episode with Pirates of the Caribbean as well.
Yeah, much lighter fare on Pirates of the Caribbean.
A little bit. And I'm sure you'll be back for an episode in the future, too.
Would love to.
Random Movie Club is a production of the Geek Generation. If you like this show, be sure to check out our podcasts and videos at thegeekgeneration.com, plus our live streams at twitch.tv/thegeekgeneration. Don't forget, you can support Random Movie Club by visiting our Patreon campaign at thegeekgeneration.com/support. As always, thanks to Michael McLeod of Wolfstead Music for our theme song. A link to his site can also be found on our site. Thanks for listening, and make sure you join us next time when we'll discuss The Rocketeer. See you then.